All right. Episode 3 of No Huddle podcast. If you have watched episode 1 and episode 2, you might have noticed that Justin and I are wearing the exact same thing with the exact same background. That is not because we are dirty people who just wear the same clothes. That is because we have recorded now our third episode and we plan on episode 4 all in the same night. On a regular basis, we will record probably once a week, Justin, maybe twice a week, depending on the week. For this first week, Justin and I wanted to record a big group of episodes to get some good content out. As we talked about in episode 1, we just want to get going. We want to talk with people about football. This is a great way for us to do it. And as we talked about it in episode 2, we called this the No Huddle because we don't really have any plans. We have topics that we want to talk about that Justin and I would be talking about on our own that we want to bring forth into a podcast form, into a show form. So Justin, thank you so much. Let's talk about this episode, which we want to talk about week 4 waiver wire ads. We're Tuesday night right now. For many people, waiver wires go through Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, but the whole goal of this episode is not necessarily to tell you which players you should be adding, but to talk a little bit about strategy, to talk about your leagues, what you're planning on doing. So Justin, I'll toss it to you right now. How are you feeling about your leagues? If you haven't caught up on episode 2, I highly suggest to go to episode 2 because Justin tees up his leagues a little bit. But right now we want to talk about where you're at with your leagues right now and what you're planning on doing. So Justin, I'll toss it to you.
Yeah, so I'll start with first off, thanks for the introduction. I'll start with my Cubs league. 2-1. I'm in a decent spot. I like my team. As far as waiver wire ads go, I right now have 2 waiver claims. We have fab designations in this league. You start with $100. It works your way down, obviously. As of right now, I have the Chargers D, and I'm trying to replace them with the Dolphins D. I'm a big advocate for switching and swapping your defenses and kickers according to matchups. I think that can win you 2 to 4 matchups throughout the year. I literally won the training staff their matchup this week. They would be 1-2, but they're now 2-1. They had the Ravens D, and I was talking with him in the training room. And he was like, he drafted the Ravens D, and he wanted to play him like all year and only not play him on the bye week. And I'm sitting there talking to him, I'm like, yeah, but they're playing the Cowboys. Like that game's going to be high scoring. Like that's just two good offenses. Like it's going to be high scoring. Like max, like they'll get 7-8 points maybe. And they ended up getting 4, I think. But I was like, go get somebody off the waiver wire. I forget who exactly, maybe the Seahawks, who's playing Miami.
Yes.
Who's playing Miami. I think they were playing Miami, maybe. I could be wrong.
Yes. Yeah.
With a backup quarterback. And I was like, you should definitely pick that team up because, like, it just strictly because of the matchup. And they ended up scoring more than what the Ravens won. He won his matchup by, like, 2 points. So,
That's amazing.
So that's literally like what I'm talking about. Like those little things go such a long way over the course of a season. And like even if it hurts spending $2 or $3 on a kicker or defense just to upgrade for the week, like it hurts, but hey, it might win you the matchup that week. Like you have to do it. That's why the fab's there. Yeah. But anyways, just to go back to what I was saying, I have Dolphins for Chargers for $2. If that doesn't work, I have the Raiders right behind it. For the Chargers for $2. If that doesn't work, I have the Titans for $2 right behind it. Just three defenses that I like more than the Chargers matchup this upcoming week. Same with the kickers. I went $2 for Matt Prater. I like the matchup against the Commanders coming up. I think he's going to be kicking a lot of field goals. I got $2 to replace Blake Group, and then Austin Siebert, who's also in that same game on the other side. I have for $1 to replace Blake Group. And then the one that's kind of odd, I don't know if I love it yet. I was going to get your input on it. I'm trying to get Sam Darnold off the waivers to replace Derek Carr, and I have $4 on him right now. I was thinking about maybe going up to $6 just to make sure that I get him. Kind of wanted to get your thoughts on that. And while you give me your thoughts on that, I'm pulling up the waiver wire just to give give us some like further additions for people and whatnot as far as like what your team needs.
Yeah. So I want to talk about what you said at the get-go of you can actually win 2 to 4 matchups by making those shifts, by making those small pickups that maybe most people won't actually do. And let's face it, a lot of your league members are going to be lazy, maybe not change their defense, maybe, not even bother. But let's literally take a look at the Chargers defense that you have right now. They are at home, which is first a good thing to look for defenses, that they're against the Chiefs, which is obviously a bad thing, right? And if you are at home listening to this and you are thinking, look, I don't even know what to look for when it comes to defenses. I drafted my defense. I am just going to pick that defense and ride them throughout the entire season. The easy thing to look at is over-unders for the week, right? Over-unders, totals of the matchup of the week. And Justin just mentioned that 2 of his top 3 are the Titans defense or the Dolphins defense in reverse order. Dolphins first, Titans then third. They have the lowest over-under of the week, 36.5. That is pretty low in NFL. And NFL these days been scoring a little bit less, so be it. But that is a very low score. That goes to show that both of those defenses should probably hold their own. It's a tight line. It's the Dolphins -1, which is maybe something that we should talk about at another point. But a 36.5 means that both defenses should be able to hold them under 3 touchdowns. And that's pretty good. The other one that you mentioned in second place was the Raiders against the Browns. To my point earlier, the Raiders are at home. That over-under is 37. The Raiders are projected to win by 1 against the Browns, where Deshaun Watson has shown that he is prone to turn the ball over, especially these days. And so, honestly, I think your ranking is right, where you have Dolphins at home as the favorite. Then you have Raiders at home as the favorite. Then Titans in the second to lowest, in the lowest over-under of the week. But on away, defenses away is a little concerning. But I think your order for defenses is perfect.
The only thing I feel like you have to worry about with the Titans right now is Levis giving the other team short fields constantly, and
that's a good point.
The defense just being in bad positions. That would be my kind of like devil's advocate with that.
That's a great point. My second point there is defenses and kickers are a little random in the sense that defenses who score the most on any given week are the ones who score a touchdown, who block a kick, who get a lot of sacks. Sacks is predictable. Scoring touchdowns on a pick six, less predictable. Block punts, certainly not predictable. And so you kind of have to take a little bit of a guess there. And then the kicker situation, a lot of people say wait on kickers because that's not predictable. But if you look at Brandon Aubrey of the Dallas Cowboys, he's crushing the league. I saw a tweet today where he would be top 5. And, I think if he was a tight end points wise, he would be number 1. He would be a top 10 running back, top 10 receiver. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but he's scoring a lot of points. I'm curious who has Brandon Aubrey in your Cubs league, and you probably need a minute to look that up. But I think kickers, for the most part, are random unless you can grab a top-end kicker, and I think that's super important.
I'll tell you who has him real quick. It is Nico, who is 3-0.
There you go. A lot of points.
Yeah, that's not surprising. To kind of build off what you're saying, it's yes, it is random, but if you don't have a Brandon Aubrey where he's going to be, or a Tucker where he's kicking tons of field goals, it doesn't matter if they're at the 50-yard line. It makes sense to go after those high-scoring games, those volatile defenses, like where for sure you're getting those extra points, and for sure the offense is going to be moving the ball down the field, and if they don't score, they're going to take 3 points.
Yeah,
like taking that's kind of what you're saying, like chasing those totals, looking at the over-unders, looking at the spreads. That plays a role in how many points a kicker is going to score as well. It just does. It just like simple math, like over-unders, they're taking into account how many points the kickers are going to be scoring as well. So chasing, like, don't be afraid to drop the kicker you have just because you like him, he's done well for you thus far for the better matchup. Like, just don't be afraid to drop him. Just kind of like what I was saying with the Ravens defense and my trainer. It just makes sense. Like, drop the Ravens D. If you really don't want to drop them, put them on your bench and drop somebody else, and then have two defenses. I advise strongly against having two defenses, but if you just feel the need to keep whatever you have, then drop someone else. It just makes sense for that week. And like I said, it made the difference for the trainer this week.
Yeah, love that. You talked about your quarterback situation a little bit, which I want to touch on. So we have my best recommendation right now when you're looking at Derek Carr or Sam Darnold is buy schedule and upcoming matchups. So let's talk quickly about the Saints' upcoming matchups. They are on the road against Atlanta. They are on the road against Kansas City. Atlanta, I was just looking up passing data today, middle of the road against quarterbacks, but you're probably not going to start Carr this week anyways, because we talked about in episode 2, you're probably going to start Jaden Daniel. You are most right?
Yeah.
You are most likely not going to start Carr on the road in Kansas City against the Chiefs. Chiefs defense is actually pretty good against the pass, but where you might actually consider to start Carr is week 6 against Tampa Bay at home, because Tampa Bay pass defense actually allows pretty good. Then we go into Denver, Chargers, Carolina, Atlanta again, Cleveland, and then a bye week. I don't know how many times you're actually going to start Carr there. And so if you think about, I think my recommendation to everyone is, as you think about quarterback number 2 on your team, how many times are you actually going to start them over the next 5-ish weeks? And for Carr, I see 1 against the Bucs, right? Maybe in week 6 against the Bucs. I haven't looked up who Jaden Daniels is going against in week 6, but the NFL is a matchup game. And I think the only spot that you want to start Carr is probably against the Bucs. Curious if you agree.
I do agree with that. And while you was pulling that up, I'm looking at Sam Darnold's upcoming schedule as well. Yeah. Sam Darnold in that offense, I think there's going to be a lot of passing touchdowns.
Yeah.
Especially with Aaron Jones out of the backfield. He's already shown that he'll catch the ball. He'll make plays after the catch. I could see him scoring the ball, obviously. Justin Jefferson, the new guy that's kind of breaking on right now, Naylor.
Yeah. Jalen Naylor looks great.
Yeah, he looks great. He's somebody, we'll talk about it later, but like, he's a DFS play at this point, like, especially if they're going to keep pricing that low. Like, he's viable to catch a touchdown or two in one of these games when they're when defenses are doubling Justin Jefferson. But that's obviously another topic. But Sam Darnold, upcoming weeks, obviously Green Bay can somewhat give it up in the past, just from what we've watched. New York Jets, obviously, that's not necessarily where you would want to start him, but has a bye week after that. This is where it gets a little bit interesting, and where you would want to be starting Sam Darnold. He has Detroit, who is all obviously shown to be a pass funnel. Their run defense is amazing. Their pass defense, not so much. If they're going to be giving it up, it's going to be through the air. And with the way the Minnesota Vikings offense is set up, it's set up to score through the air. Just like I said, Aaron Jones through the air, catching the pass, the yards he gets after the catch, Justin Jefferson as well. And then it goes Detroit, Rams, Indy, Jacksonville, Tennessee, all pass funnels. If you're going to beat these teams, it's through the air. And then it obviously goes Chicago, who is shown to be pretty good defensively through the air and whatnot. Just a good defense all around, I would say. It's going to be interesting to see how they progress moving forward with Caleb Williams, their offense, what kind of situations they put the defense in. Just it's going to be interesting just to follow that team moving forward. And then they go Arizona, who is another that's just a shootout waiting to happen. Atlanta, who I could see him beating them through the air. And then it goes Chicago again, Seattle, Green Bay, Detroit. But what I'm really excited about is that kind of meat of what we were just talking about, where he's playing a lot of pass funnel defenses. And that's kind of right along that playoff schedule, like right where you're getting into playoffs and like the first few rounds of playoffs. Like, if you're a team that's 2-3-0, 2-1, like it's kind of time to start progressing in that direction of where you kind of want to get the favorable matchups going forward.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I'm looking at now the Commanders' schedule in correlation.
I've already looked. I'm so happy about it.
So I actually think, how much did you say you had on Sam Darnold?
At $4, I want to move it to 6.
Yeah, I think you absolutely move it to 6 because, to your point, weeks 8, 9, and 10, I talked about earlier, the next 5 weeks is really what you're focused on, especially if you're picking a backup. The weeks 8, 9, and 10, we are recording this between week 3 and 4. Week 8 is against the Rams at the Rams. Week 9 is against the Colts. Week 10 is against the Jaguars. I referenced in the last episode that I'm going to reference fantasy points data a lot. The Rams right now allow the second highest QB rate against opposing quarterbacks. The Jaguars are against the fifth against the opposing quarterbacks, and the Colts are 10th against opposing quarterbacks. That is 3 of the top 10 worst quarterbacks to date. Now we're only 3 weeks through, but I think weeks 8, 9, and 10 are absolutely Sam Darnold start spots. And I'm looking at the Commanders. Week 8, 9, and 10 for the Commanders are against Chicago, not a start spot for Jaden Daniels. The Giants, which are a start spot for the Commanders, which you can decide upon in the moment. And week 10 against Pittsburgh, which is looking like one of the best defenses in the league. You do not want to start Jaden Daniels and the Commanders against Pittsburgh. So 8, 9, and 10 is a perfect spot to start Sam Darnold. I think that's a shoe-in. Now, the other element is, A, yes, you should bid on Sam Darnold. B, how much? I think 6 absolutely gets it done. I think 4 probably gets it done. But hey, let's lock it in. Why not, right?
I agree totally. And just to kind of transition to what we're talking about, I'm going to go over to running backs there's none that I would be adding to my team in the Cubs league at this point. I have Travis Etienne, I have Jordan Mason, I have Ramondre Stevenson, I have Rico Dowdle, and then that's it. I have 4 capable running backs at this point, so I'm not going to be adding any running backs at this point. Yeah. Someone I would be adding is Roschon Johnson. I think he has looked the best out of those 3 once the season has started. Chicago people are probably going to hate me for saying this, but I've never been a believer in DeAndre Swift. I can go on, but I just don't believe in him.
Oh.
I think Roschon Johnson, the way that offense is moving right now, is the best fit to be the starting running back for that offense. I think the way they're moving Caleb out of the pocket, making him pass on the move, when they want to run the ball, it's in between the tackles and whatnot. DeAndre Swift is always wanting to bounce it outside. Roschon Johnson, Khalil Herbert is even better in between the tackles and stuff. But with the way the offense is moving, I think Roschon Johnson, if you need a running back, you need to add him. I don't know how much exactly you should bid. I don't know your bench situations. If you have someone like a P. Ryan on your bench, I would definitely drop P. Ryan for him. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know where you bid. It's similar to Darnold, probably $4.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think he's a little under the radar. I'm gonna quiz you right now, and I know you don't know this, but I'm curious your thoughts. How many yards per carry does DeAndre Swift have on the season? Per carry.
I'm gonna say 1.3.
1.8. That's a great guess.
That was off the dome. That was off the dome. That was
fantastic. I put you on the spot there. DeAndre Swift, if you're watching, we invite you onto the podcast to plead your case here. But look, 1.8 doesn't look great right now. And so to your point, the snap counts right now for Roschon Johnson, 0 in week 1, 0 in week 2. There was a little offseason injury concerns. There was a little bit of a healthy scratch concerns in week 1. But now week 3, 37% of snaps. There's a world where DeAndre Swift continues to go down in snap counts week over week. Week 1, 70%. Week 2, 66%. Week 3, 53%. That's a decrease of 17% over 2 weeks. And Roshan from 0 to 37. There's a world where Roshan continues to get the carries. To your point, he looks good. To Justin's point, I think stashing him on your bench is not a bad decision at all.
Totally. And I'll quickly move over to receivers in this league. The Cubs league's tough. There's a lot of sharp guys in it. The receiver end is kind of thin. We're looking at Lockett, Mingo, Palmer, Douglas. Douglas might be an ad. Dobbs, Lazard, Wilson, Reynolds. Andrea Isivia. I can't say his last name.
Yoshevis.
Yeah, I butcher it every time.
No, you're good.
He's definitely an ad at this point. I think his role in that offense is real. And I'll be completely honest. I was watching that Commanders-Bengals game closely. T. Higgins isn't 100%.
Yeah.
T. Higgins is not 100%. Watching him run those routes, he was still favoring something. I don't know exactly what it is.
Yeah.
I was watching very closely. He's still not 100%. I think Andrea is still gonna command these targets. He's showing that he's getting open, and I think Burrow is one of those guys. You start building that repertoire with him. You show him that he can trust you. He's going to get you the ball, and I think this guy could be a league winner. I mean, he really could. Like if he ends up just taking over that number 2 role in that offense where there's not a definite running back, like they're going to be throwing the ball, could be in shootouts. You want that number 2 to Joe Burrow.
Yeah. Yeah. So here's the thing, for short, let's call him Yoshi, which has been his nickname in the analytics street. So Yoshi in week 2, when T. Higgins was out, played 77% of snaps. Yoshi in week 3, when T. Higgins was in, played 77% of snaps. So to your point, his role continues. If you followed football last year, you knew that Tyler Boyd popped for a couple weeks throughout the season. Either he popped because of injury or he popped simply because the wide receiver 2/3 role in that offense is a valuable role. The Bengals defense doesn't look good, and Yoshi could certainly have a role. The last point I'll say on season-long receivers is that season-long receivers are tough to pick who's going to have value on a week-to-week basis, because essentially what you're looking for is a touchdown, which are random and sporadic and whatnot. What you definitely want to look for is a handcuff. And what a handcuff is somebody who will directly replace somebody who gets injured. So if Jamar Chase gets injured or if T. Higgins gets injured, Yoshi will continue to have a big role in that offense. So if you're looking for receiver help on waiver wire, I would highly suggest looking at a good offense, B, somebody who could directly replace that role if a top receiver goes down. And it's hard to find, but that's what you want to look for.
I'm actually going to add him right now.
Nice.
I'm going to bid $3.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do it to replace T. Johnson. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Tyler Johnson from the Rams, I assume?
Yes.
Yeah. So Tyler Johnson is somebody who I believe in his physical talent. I believe in the Rams. I believe that he could have a role. But unfortunately, we didn't see it in last week, which is when I thought we would see it. So I'm fine with that change.
Totally.
And look, the flip side is that no one's going to pick up Tyler Johnson. So if you change your mind in the future, you'll still have a chance.
Totally. Going to transition over to my other leagues. They're obviously very similar. Jaden Daniels, Terry McLaurin. Just looking at the waiver wires real quick, transaction trends. One of them is Yoshi, Sam Darnold, 2 guys that we were just speaking about. So it's kind of cool to see that they're trending in transactions on Yahoo as I switch over. Prater. Oh, Andy Dalton trending. What are your thoughts on that situation that's forming in Carolina? Is Andy Dalton someone that you should think about adding? Three passing touchdowns last week. Um,
Yeah.
Deontay Johnson showing some life. Obviously, Adam Thielen got hurt. That sucks.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I'll start with Deontay Johnson because he is, I think, now an every week start, and I think actually we'll talk about DFS in the next episode. I think DFS Deontay is probably one of my favorite plays for Week 4. So I think if you have him on your season long fantasy team, I think he's a must start. Andy Dalton on the flip side, um, I think I think the community, the fantasy football community, the NFL community kind of gets darlings in their mind. And my concern is that in our minds, Andy Dalton is better in our minds than he actually is, because I don't think Andy Dalton is a consistent starter in the NFL when we've seen him consistently start. He has turned the ball over. He has held the ball too long and gotten sacked a lot. He had a good matchup this week and a great game. I wouldn't put too much value in Andy Dalton. If you are struggling on quarterback, fine, go for it. I am not convinced that the Panthers are going to be a must-add team right now. I'm not convinced that Andy Dalton will hold his starting job for more than 5 weeks. But in the short term, sure, why not?
Totally. And then the only other transaction I have in this league is I'm switching Prater out for Bates. Have $2 on it. I might put 3 on it just to confirm that I get it.
Yeah.
I just really like that matchup a lot better. Bates going up against Seattle's D. Switch over to my last league real quick. Take a look at its waiver wires. I just like to look at every waiver wire because you never know who's on waiver wires in each league. Literally, there's 10 leagues, there's 12 leagues, there's 14 team leagues. Everybody's got different teams that are on the waiver wire and whatnot. Looks very similar to the other league. You're looking at Andy Dalton, Sam Darnold. Same thing. The defense is Miami, Tennessee. Those are trending transactions. So, like I said, it kind of confirms what we were saying earlier in this episode.
Yeah, I love that. My only comments on what people should look at, I talked about in the last episode that zero RB, the notion that you should draft and stash backup running backs, I think is extremely valuable. So I want to rattle off a couple backup running backs right now that if they are available in your league, you should absolutely consider adding. And we've talked about it already that every single league is different. And so it depends how many bench spots you have. It depends what your team currently looks like. But these are the players that I would highly recommend considering adding if they are available in your waiver wires. Bucky Irving looks like he will sooner rather than later be the Bucs starting running back. If he's available in your league, draft him, grab him on waiver wires, absolutely. Braylon Allen of the Jets looks like if Brees gets injured, he will be the end-all be-all for the Jets, and he will get 20-plus touches in any given week. I would absolutely draft him. There's a lot of other handcuffs that I would consider drafting or grabbing in waiver wires, like Tank Bigsby, Jaleel McLaughlin. But another one that I think is probably available in a lot of your leagues is Jalen Wright. If, God forbid, something happens to Devin Achane, Jalen Wright will be a must-have in every single league. Now, I get that Mostert will come back and probably have a big role. Mostert in his career has often been injured. Jalen Wright looks legit. And if he's available in your league, and if you have the bench room, I would grab him off of waiver wires and stash him right now.
I agree. One more that might be on people's waivers that people that definitely drafted him that have probably dropped him at this point, Blake Corum.
Yes.
The way the Rams offense is operating, they are using their guys. If Kyron Williams goes down with injury, it is Blake Corum's season.
Absolutely.
It is exactly what Kyron Williams is doing. You can expect that from Blake Corum. It's going to be 15 fantasy points a game. It's going to be outlier games where you're scoring 23+ points. It's what's going to happen, especially with Puka and Cooper Kupp out. You see how they're using Kyron Williams. I mean, he's out there all the time. So that's somebody that you put on your bench, and if something happens to Kyron Williams, you are now in a position. You just picked up Blake Corum off the waivers for nothing, and you now have an RB1.
He is a Jordan Mason, if you will, where if the running back number one goes down in this great offense, and the Rams are a little bit up in the air right now in terms of what they'll do this season. But to your point, if Kyron Williams goes down, Blake Corum is a must-have and maybe a league winner.
Yes.
Love it. Great call out. We'll call it here. We're at 30 minutes. I know we covered a lot here. Hopefully this helps you. I know we are past waiver wires, but a lot of what we called out is probably still available in your leagues. To my point earlier, don't be lazy. Look at your leagues, and you will be able to add, to Justin's point, 2 to 4 wins on the season. That's amazing. Anyways, thanks for having us. We'll talk to you soon.